Alright, well I got a whole stack of blanks for all of my ribs. I think there's, I'm going to go off the top of my head without looking at the plans, in 25,000, so there's only a left and a right. I actually I'm going to cut 3 of these just so I've got a spare there in case. It's not going to be a big deal if I do have to go back, but I figured that would be a good one to just have a spare of so that we can kind of test fit and stuff. So anyway, I've got of these nose ribs, I believe there's 4 lefts and 4 rights. On the full-size ones in like these, all the rest of these are 16,000s. I think the full ribs in 16,000s, there are 2 lefts and 2 rights, and then the tail sections, there's 10 lefts and 10 rights. So I've got the Beverly shear right here. I'm just going to go ahead, rough cut them, and then we'll go back and start routing them. And these were realistically all just cut out of scrap material that I had left over sitting here. You know, I got a little scrap rack that's got different sizes in. And I could go back, I got both an air shear and an electric shear, hand shears, that I could cut these on, but this has got an advantage on these scraps over the electric shear because it pulls the center section out, and on a narrow edge where there's not that much material, why there's not enough to start a good curl, so it tends to not cut as well there. And the air shear would do just as well, and probably, well, it would be faster than this, but I haven't started the compressor this morning, so we're just going to cut them just like that. I did kind of a refurb on this shear and built a stand for it, so it's mobile. Got wheels under one end and then just a stabilizer here on the front, so that lets me move it around quite easily. And again, this is a part that we either tested a flanging hole or built something else there, so this is just a leftover piece. I did notice that there's a couple of tools that I use and I really highly recommend that seem to be discontinued now. One of them is the little Chicago pneumatic drill. And while I'm thinking about it, let me look at it real quick, just so it doesn't slip my mind. This little, what is this, a 7300, and I really think highly of this little drill, but it's been discontinued apparently, and they've replaced it with a 7300C, I believe. Make sure I'm giving the right number here. Yeah, they replaced it with a 7300C, which has got a composite body on it, and the reviews on it really suck. They say it's loud and obnoxious with bearing noise, which this I think is probably a little bit loud too, but I really like it. But the composite, I guess it's not nearly the quality that the 7300 is, and I'm sure cost is the driving factor behind that. The other one is the Nico rivet guns that I use, and I've got a link down in the description. Those no longer seem to be available any place I look. There is a link, or I will put a link on for Amazon that's got a, looks to be the same riveters, but they've got a different name on them. I can't tell you off the top of my head what it is. I don't really remember. But I'll put a link down below and maybe a card up above showing it. Price is substantially higher. You know, I think the little Nikos were $50 in the door, and I think these were just over 100, which, like I say, I believe they're the same thing with just a different, the castings look exactly the same, the color looks the same, but different manufacturer brand on there. So I'm going to assume it's the same exact riveter except with a different name on it. And even though the cost is higher, I probably will still recommend that one. I've been very happy with the Nikos. So compared to everything else that's out there, I think they're probably still one of the better riveters for the money out there. So, all right, so there's all of the blanks cut. So I'll go back through my stack here, make sure I've got the right number of all of them. And then we'll go ahead and set them up on the router table. I'm going to set up my other router table with the bigger router on it. And we'll start cutting these out. Alright, you're seeing the first setup now. These are all three of the 25,000s full ribs that I have. They're sandwiched in between. Everything lines up. I'm going to go ahead and just drill my holes here for the reliefs while I've got it right here bolted together for in the drill press, and then we'll go out and we'll route this out and see how they look. Alright, fairly high angle because I don't want to throw crap all over here. And this is the setup. Ideally I should be wearing a long sleeve shirt. This throws hot crap all over. A little bit of bow lube, put it on both the cutting bit and on our aluminum. Will help quite a bit with this. And I just use stick bow lube. It lasts forever and does a good job of lubricating stuff like this. Okay, well that throws way too much crap way too many places, but that's why I do it outside. Now we'll have to go back and deburr these edges, and I think, oh no, that one's fine. Yeah, that looks pretty good. That's 3 thicknesses of 25 thousandths. I normally don't route that much together, it's fine, but you know, you'll see a lot of guys that say when they route their aluminum like that off of a template, why they'll run about, you know, 4 thicknesses of 4 to 6 thicknesses of 25 or even 32 thousandths. I've never really been in that much of a hurry to where I worried about it. To me it was just as easy to just take my time and enjoy the process, and normally I'll only route 1 or 2. With these of 16 thousandths I will probably go ahead and run about 4 of them there. 1630, that's 60 thousandths. I might not. I might only do about 3. I'm not in that big a hurry, really. So, you know, we're just kind of screwing around. This is part of the enjoyment of building. So, it's about 10:30 here. I started out here about probably 7. So I've got about 3 hours in finishing cutting blocks. You know, we saw where we started at. We had our master pretty well set up, so we finished them out. We've cut our blanks, and we're in the process of cutting these. It'll probably take me another half an hour to cut these, and a good portion of the time is spent running these 2 screws back and forth in by hand. You know, if I would actually go and get a screw gun, and it would make this about 3 times faster. But this morning I don't actually have any place else that I have to be, so I'm not too concerned about it. You know, along these same lines of our airplane stuff, whether you're building your own, whatever you're doing, and this is just a side note, my wife's been gone this last weekend going to visit our son, who's about 1,300 miles away from us, and right now when you try and fly commercial, it's pretty much a cluster. They got down there no problem, and it was on Alaska. You know, I don't need to hold anything back on that, because they're, you know, I do flea bay editions where I point out the deficiencies of a lot of these sellers, so I might as well point out the deficiencies of Alaska right now. They got down there no problem. There was 2 of them going down to see him, and there's what we end up with in 25 thousandths. So all three of those look just fine. I will go back, and the only thing I will say I don't like about them is my tooling holes. That 1/8 inch is just barely big enough. I think I might go back and open those up just a little bit to accept that, to accept those screws a little bit better. But good old Alaska Airlines coming back, they were supposed to fly out yesterday morning. Well, they screwed around and ended up and had problems with the plane, which I understand that. And come to find out the parts were not going to be in until about 8 o'clock that night. Well, after a whole lot of screwing around, why, they finally got scheduled for 6 o'clock this morning, and or a flight that was supposed to leave at 6 o'clock this morning. And ended up, she texted me and said, well, there's a delay. Had a problem with the oil. Not enough oil or something. Oil was low. I'm thinking you probably should be pre-flighting your aircraft, especially a big commercial one, you know, maybe before it's time to actually fly out, type of thing. So they screwed around. They did finally get going again, but first they started that yesterday morning was a delay, then it became a cancellation. And after a whole lot of screwing around, they managed to get vouchers for a place to stay, and they kind of got screwed on, at least for now, on meals that should have been immediately paid for with vouchers, and that was another story. But anyway, they finally got out there, made it to Seattle now, so they'll be in this afternoon. I'll have to go pick them up. But I guess the moral of this story is, what's the deal with our commercial airlines? And granted, part of it's the way the world is right now, but you know, this is kind of stupid when you know, I think it's kind of a Mickey Mouse operation at this point in time. So anyway, maybe I'll edit this out. This is kind of a rant again. So anyway, I'll be back in a few minutes. I'm going to go ahead and route the rest of these. You saw the process of the first one. I don't feel like flinging aluminum shavings at the camera. Well, they fit a whole lot better if I take the time to deburr them. Oh. And they go together, just that easy. The tool that I've gotten to where I use for deburring most of the time, I've been through battery powered ones and stuff, a little inexpensive ones, and they work okay. They're slow speed enough and everything, but I've got this Rockwell screwdriver. It's a forward reverse screwdriver. I just leave it in forward. I've got a deburring bit in the quick change chuck here, just like you'd have on any of the new battery powered stuff, and fairly slow speed. I use it for my deburring. It's quick and easy and does a great job. So there again, you know, I prefer my air tool stuff over battery powered for most of these things. I will they go together just like that. I'm going to go ahead and do all 4 of these since I've got them right here. I prefer my air tools over battery powered stuff. I personally don't think battery powered drills turn fast enough to do a good job. So I use it for some woodworking stuff and things like that. But for the aircraft stuff, I prefer air tools. You know, you can hear the compressor running out there probably. My old wore out loud compressor. But, you know, works well for this stuff. So that's my weapon of choice for deburring. Right, well, I've got the last set going through the form blocks here, the last 4, and I've cut them at 4 at a time. So we got the last 4 of these going. I thought you might like to see it real time. So let me move the camera down here so you got a better view, and let's see. Now I'm not going to move the camera out to route these. You're just going to hear them in the background, and that's the way it is. But this will give you an idea of what it takes to, how long it takes to do this stuff. Well, I was going to give you a real time of how long it took to do these, which didn't take long. I went through, I deburred the last 4 blanks that I had, slid them on there, put the top on, screwed them together, went over the drill and drilled my relief holes, and smeared some bow lube around the edge just to lubricate the router bit. And now we're going out to the router to route this off. Now the reliefs in these will take a little more to finish them out, but I'm going to wait until I've got form blocks and I start forming to find out exactly how much more I want to remove. They come apart just that easy. Now these will have to be deburred next, and I'll lightly deburr the tooling holes again, probably not until after they're formed though, because once they're formed, why, they'll raise a little burr there again. But I'll have to relieve that and figure out those angles exactly. We'll deburr the edges, which I'll just do on the little drill press with a Scotch-Brite wheel. And there's 20 of those, all exactly the same. There is 8 of the nose ribs, all almost exactly the same. Now you can see the difference on these first 2 that I did, or first 4 that I did. Why, I neglected to drill my holes in the corner before I routed them out. So we've got just a little bit difference in the radius on those 2. It would have been better had I gone ahead and drilled those, and then I could clean them up. This I'm going to have to relieve that radius by hand, which isn't a big deal, but would have taken care of that if I would have been paying attention. So there's 8 of those, which is our nose ribs. Here's our 4 16,000ths full ribs, which is the splice in between the ribs where the 2 halves join for each wing. So we got 1 inboard and 1 outboard for one wing, and 1 inboard and 1 outboard for the other wing. And then we have 3, although we only need 2 of the 25,000ths for the outboard end of each of the flaperons. So that's where we're at. It's a little before noon. I probably got about 4.5 hours in getting these to this point from where we started, and probably about 8 hours total. We probably got just about a full day in getting all the ribs done for the flaperon to this point. We'll still have to form them. I'll go ahead, deburr all these, look them over, make sure they're gonna pass muster, and then I'll take my master template and we'll go ahead and cut it down and form our actual forming block master for that, and then we'll have to go back and produce forming blocks for each of these again. So we've got, I'm guessing, about 8 hours so far. We'll have another, probably another full 8 hours in it, probably 2 days to get all the ribs done for the flaperons. So now I still haven't ordered spar material. I've got to order some 25,000ths for spars, and then we'll get these put together, hopefully. Just about got our blanks ready to go. We've got all of our rear ribs are all deburred. We've cleaned up our edges and everything. Happy with those. They're ready to start forming once we get form blocks done. I started cutting out the cutouts in both the 16 and the 25,000ths full ribs. I got them to that point. And what's going to happen is I just cut them out with snips, just like that. So I'm just going to go back, I'll set them in the bench vise, and we'll just lightly file those. So all I'm doing is taking my ribs, and where I've got my little notch, I'm just very carefully lining up the edge of that notch and trimming them into where they're pretty close to intersecting. I want to leave a little bit of material to actually file down and smooth it out. And if I trim them to that right there, why, that's going to give us a nice rib. So I'm going to go ahead, finish these out off camera, and I'll go file them up, and then we'll show you the blanks when they're completely done. We'll clean them up and get them ready to go, and then we're ready to start building the form blocks. Well, I've got all my parts finished out, deburred, took some acetone, cleaned all the lettering off, writing off and everything. We've got all of the ribs for the Flaperons here, so they're all ready to go. We have 10 left, 10 right of the rear, 4 left, 4 right of the nose ribs, a left and a right for the 25 thousandths thick end ribs, or no, those are the root ribs, excuse me. Hopefully you find this a little bit interesting. Comments, suggestions, leave them in the comment section for me below, guys. And as always, thanks for taking the time to watch.